Let's see, May 22nd, 2025, Eastern Conference Finals, Game 1, Western Conference Finals, Game 1. Thinking about kind of what I wanted to talk about. I had to bring in my man, had to bring in a special. I mean, this is like royalty. Bring in a special guest. My guy, TJ Jefferson, he's the co-host of No Contest Wrestling, but also the co-host of the Rich Eisen Show. I had to bring him in for a couple different reasons. One, because he's great at what he does. Oh, well, that's one thing.
Thank you.
But you're tuned in to a lot of different things. The wrestling part we go get into, of course, a little bit. But the basketball side of it, too. And, listen, the game last night was just phenomenal. I mean, Indiana at New York. Indiana was down big, but yet they were able to come back within about 2.5 minutes, cut that lead, take it to overtime, and eventually walk out of MSG with what I think may be a series-changing kind of win. Mm-hmm. New York had it. But watching that game, when Indiana was down 14 with about 2.5 minutes to go, whatever it may be, what'd you think?
Thought it was a wrap. Everybody thought it was a wrap, right? Like the Knicks seemed like they were comfortable, they were cruising. Mm-hmm. But the thing with Indiana is they just kept chipping away, right? They could have just laid down, Jimmy. They could have been
That's not Indiana.
It's not them, but they could have been like, all right, bet.
Right.
This is an L. We just want to steal one game here anyway. And they could have, let's cruise. But they didn't put it on cruise control. They kept chipping away, and the Knicks were exchanging 3s for 2s as the time actually got down around that 2-minute mark. It was truly like when you don't have a dog in the fight, right, and you're just able to watch the game as a fan,
right.
That was so much fun to watch. And then at one point, Cat hit that 3 and kind of tapped James Johnson on the chest as he rolled back up court. And I thought at that moment, all right,
the Knicks got it.
This is it.
Right.
But these Pacers,
bro, they something else. They're something different, man.
They just I'd imagine that must be like when you're in a Halloween or a Friday the 13th movie and you keep stabbing Jason and Michael Myers and then you turn around and homeboy's still coming at you. All right, let me shoot him. Bam, now I'm going to run up the block. No, Here he comes. He's still walking. Oh, I'm going to stab him. No, he's still coming. There was nothing they could do to put this team away.
It's one of those things, too. So you ask yourself, did the Knicks lose it?
Or did the Pacers win it?
Or did the Pacers win it? And two things can be right at the same time. I think the Pacers, because of the way the game is today with the three-point line, a 20-point lead, 15-point lead is nothing with two minutes left in the game, 2.5 minutes. The reason why is because it's really if it's a 15-point game, it's a 5-possession game.
True that.
Okay, so now you're with 5 threes, which we saw happen. At the end of this, you can get back in the game. So you're never out of it, especially with the team that uses the three-point line to their advantage. If you're not a volume three-point shooting team and that's not your thing, then sometimes it's tougher to get back in games. But if that's what you do and now you can pick up the pace, that's something Indiana. And if Indiana made the little plays down the stretch, they got the stops when they needed. Yep. They forced New York to kind of get out of their comfort zone when they were rolling in that fourth quarter, especially late in the fourth quarter, under 5 minutes. Forced some bad decision-making by New York, some missed free throws. And again, the slim margin. If Nembhard misses 1 or 2 of those threes at the end, the game is over.
True.
But the momentum was on the way. That might have been Nesmith at the end, too.
Nesmith did have a big three with about 2 minutes, minute and a half. Yeah.
Imagine you missed that. Okay, Nesmith, you missed that. That changes everything. So when I look at the game, and coaches tell you this all the time, give yourself a chance to win. Just stay in the game. Despite what may be happening in the other 3 quarters, 3.5 quarters, if you got a chance to get back in and put the pressure on the opposing team, and that's something I saw from a basketball perspective Indiana do.
And it was actually Nembhard who actually hit the 3 that I was talking about. But let me ask you this, because, of course, you've played basketball at the highest level, so it's for me, I like to get in your brain a little bit. When you're the Knicks, I'd have to think that your whole thought process is don't let Tyrese Halliburton beat you. It seems like when you have a player on one of those teams, it's always like, let the other guy beat you if you're going to lose. I'm not saying they let this man.
Those numbers.
But I'm looking at the numbers. He had one 30-point game this season, and he had 30 yesterday. Now, I was listening to some of the other talk shows earlier today, and a lot of players talking about how there was poor defense on the Knicks trying to cover him. But to me, Jim, it seemed like a lot of times if the man's chucking it up from 23, 24 feet out, are you really defending that, a guy who you're not expecting to go off like that? Like, what would be your defensive thought process if you're trying to watch this dude?
Well, here's the thing with Tyrese, you got to keep him out of transition. You got to keep Tyrese out of transition, force him to operate in the half court. How you play the pick and roll with Miles Turner, Obi Toppin is very important because if he can turn the corner and get that big body downhill, then it makes it tougher to stop him. Yeah. Now, is he getting these shots in transition? Is it off of some kind of penetration and now pitch and he's shooting? That's one thing. If he's really breaking you down and beating you individually,
that's something different.
That's something totally different. And how you guard the pick and roll is going to be different. And the beauty about this series, it's the same thing I'd say about Brunson. Brunson had 40. Okay, I think he joined Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Jerry West, James Harden, I think Allen Iverson as one of the guards with the most 40-point games in a playoff game. Okay. That's some company.
Those are some good players.
Okay. He got 40. So if you're Rick Carlisle and the Indiana Pacers, how you guard the pick and roll in game 2 may be a little different. They were going over the top, chasing, and Jaden was able to get to a spot. Do they change that? That's the beauty of a 7-game series is that,
the adjustment?
The adjustment. You see what, and also too it's two things. Coach is going to tell you this. One, we go back and look at it and say, well, they'll ask what adjustments you need to make. They say, one, we need to operate our game plan a lot better. If we didn't. See, that's a key too. Coaches look at it and say, like when Clippers were playing Denver, I think it was game 1. Game 2, it might have been game 1 or game 5. It was all about, it wasn't that they didn't play well, it's that they didn't execute the game plan the way it was supposed to. So coaches will say that, like, there's not too much of a if we execute the game plan, we got a chance. But that's the beauty of TJ to me of game 2 is watching how these adjustments or how we tweak the game plan just a little bit, or do we execute it a lot better? Because down the stretch of the game, it was one team that made the plays, and that was Indiana.
True, but the Knicks were still hitting shots. The Knicks were still playing well. Let me ask you this again. Okay, so when you talk about game plan, it seemed like up until a certain point in that game, everything was going the Knicks' way.
It was.
And it seemed as though their game plan was being executed and it worked out. So if you're the Knicks, what do you take away from this? Because it's not like things weren't going your way. It's not like you weren't making your shots. It's not like you weren't playing the ball.
It
seems the way that you wanted to play. It's that they got incredibly hot. And we don't see stuff like...
Why did they get hot?
Why?
See what I'm saying?
Why?
So here is that, and that's the key, is that you can't allow a team to get those shots off. Now, it's easier said than done, okay? So for 46 minutes, 47 minutes, 48 minutes, you've been able to contain the three-point line relatively securely, not giving up the shots. But what happened, so what they're going to look at is in the last 2.5 minutes, what changed defensively, why those shots were open. Now, that backdoor cut that Nembhard got on Josh Hart, think about that. That's a layup. Obi Toppin with the dunk, layup. The putback, layup. So it wasn't always a three-point shot. It was those little plays, too. So a second shot opportunity goes up, and Obi Toppin comes over the top, who didn't block out. Okay?
There was one play where Halliburton had the ball. He hit a guy. I can't remember who had the layup, but Josh Hart lost his man.
Nembhard.
That's the one. And he hit him with that nice dish, and he cut to the rack, got the layup.
But that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, so that was a defensive
plays,
misstep.
We look at the threes, and even we look at the threes and that layup cost. Let's say when Indiana took the ball out of bounds and New York didn't foul, when Mitchell Robinson was guarding Toppin it, and it was a switch, and he jumped up, and Toppin went back door for that dunk and got slapped on the arm. Where was the communication there? Were you supposed to foul? Were you supposed to stay back? See, those are the correctable errors that if you're a coach for New York, you look at and say, what cost us down the stretch on why we did not, in particular, execute defensively. That little 2.5-minute stretch is what you're going to really break down. Because like you said, for the other 47 and a half minutes, you played really good basketball. Yeah. But why is the breakdown? I mean, that's, in this game, to me, is going to be the key for New York coming back.
So what do you think is the mentality of these Knicks going into game 2? Do you feel they're despondent, or do you feel like they're going to take it as like we had that little stretch where we didn't execute the way we could, but other than that, we had this game in hand? Do you think that they're up right now, or do you think they're feeling a little bit down?
It's hard to say because not in the locker room, but knowing Thibs, he was our assistant coach with the Rockets under Jeff Van Gundy, knowing Jalen Brunson, knowing Josh Hart, knowing Mikal Bridges from covering them at Villanova, being familiar with Cat, watching OG, I feel that they think they gave the game up, that Indiana didn't beat them, and that they're still the better team.
So that gives you a different mentality.
That gives you, because it's not like, this team just beat us and you feel deflated. I don't think that's what the Knicks feel. Now, conversely, the big question, too, is Indiana, you snuck that win. Mm-hmm. People say, are you satisfied? Do you get satisfied with splitting? For Indiana, it's like, no, we want to get 2.
Yeah, for sure.
Forget all that split stuff. We expected to come in here and win game 1, and now we expect to win game 2. That's the mentality, and that's what I love about this, because these two teams really feel Indiana being down, we shouldn't have been down and we should have won the game.
Yeah.
New York, we were up, we had the game, we gave you the game, you didn't beat us. And that's what I love about this series.
Yeah, it's it just 90s basketball, right?
It feels like it, right?
And the fact that we do have the Knicks and the Pacers, right? Mm-hmm. It does feel like that 90s throwback with Reggie and Ewing and everything. And
is there a villain though? Because Miller was the villain in that.
Reggie was the villain.
He was the villain in that.
I don't think there was a villain until there was a second left in the game when Halliburton made that shot and then
did that.
He did the choke.
Okay.
Because now I'm assuming this man is public enemy number one in New York City. Yep. So it's going to be interesting. Like, those New York fans they were causing the ruckus, right? And something happened yesterday that I could not believe. Brunson's at the foul line at the end of the game. Mm-hmm. The crowd, the Garden went silent. I could not believe how quiet it was.
Well, he was shooting.
But still, I'm still shocked how it was like that crowd, they were scared almost. They were.
You think it was trepidation that he may miss? Because usually what they do is that they were cheering MVP, and then they'll stop when he was about to shoot.
I guess my point is, were there no Pacers fans in the building?
Oh, you mean from somebody? Yeah. Okay, from the other side.
You could have heard a mouse peeing on cotton. It was so quiet when he was at that foul line. And I just thought, maybe the fans are getting tight now, because they're trying to all right, everybody shut up so you can make these shots.
Give me your, because we're going to talk about Denver, Minnesota and OKC, but game 2, who wins it?
I think obviously the Knicks have to, right? They got to win game 2. They go down 0-2 on the road. I think you change your name to Saran because it's a wrap, right? I feel as though if you're the Knicks, your mentality, like I said earlier, is we don't want this guy to beat us. Mm-hmm. So maybe we'll accept letting somebody else step up, because do we believe that this man can pull this off again and again in a 7-game series? But as you and I were talking about before the show started, these Pacers are deep. So even if it's not him, it can definitely be another one of these guys who nobody in America knows, by the way. I kind of feel like that's also a cool thing too. These guys, nobody knows these Pacer players outside of Halliburton. So I love the fact that now people are getting introduced to a worldwide audience. And it's going to give these guys on the bench a chance to get their shine, because it might not be the guy who got busy in game 1. It's probably going to be someone else who's going to get their chance to step up. So it's going to be interesting to see how the Knicks react to that. How are they going to defend him? And if they try to take him out, then who else is going to step up for this team?
Well, I like Indiana. I like New York to figure it out in game 2 to kind of even the series. The challenge New York has is when the ball gets boggled down for somebody else to make a play. That's what Indiana has, whether it's Nembhard, who's a point guard that can make a play, whether that's TJ McConnell that can make a play. So you can get the ball out of, if they're in a game with Halliburton, but you still have other guys that can manage and negotiate the court and make a play. The problem with New York is against a really good defensive team, who else not only can make a play, okay, make a play for yourself to go into the shot clock or make a play for your teammate. Yeah. That's one of the challenges New York has when the ball is out of Brunson's hand. That's why you heard Halliburton say, win the non-Brunson minutes. That means when he's on the bench, we need to win those minutes. Like Jokic, win the non-Jokic minutes. And I think that's the strategical advantage roster-wise that Indiana has. They got 3 basically point guards with Nembhard, with Halliburton, and with McConnell that can make plays.
For sure.
And to me, in a 7-game series, I don't know how much you can lean into. I think they can lean into that a little bit more. But game 2, I got New York.
Okay, so let's look at this. You as a player, right? Mm-hmm. You're playing this game. Halliburton hits this shot, and you would think deflating. It's a lucky shot, right?
Yeah,
let's be honest. But it's deflating. But then he goes and he does the choke symbol. Mm-hmm. You as a player, how are you feeling about that? Or is that just
at that point? I don't even think from a player perspective, you don't really see that. You you can't believe the shot went in.
Yeah,
that's your thing. You're thinking in your mind, man, we had this game. We forced him to take a tough shot. He ran back behind the 3-point line, threw it up. It hits the back and it goes up, and you're thinking now. You can imagine being on the court. That ball was probably in slow motion.
I was saying that on the show today. It hung up there for a minute. It hung up there,
and it goes. So you go from we need a stop, we got this, to
you're just watching your
overtime.
fate.
Now I give them credit. They came out in overtime and kind of dominated the first couple minutes, but once again, Indiana slow walked them. Mm-hmm. They slow walked them. So that's why I think this series is made for TV. Is probably what the NBA needed. A older rivalry renewed, different character, different faces, a different time period, but the same kind of intensity.
Yeah.
Okay? Even though Indiana wants to get up and down, it's the same kind of intensity. I think this is something in the Eastern Conference Final, if you don't have Boston in it, that you need it.
You need it, right.
You needed this kind of animosity, this kind of competitive nature.
Well, me personally, I needed the Sixers to be in there. But that's a whole nother story.
We already talked about that.
I don't even need to talk about them.
We already talked about that. But now, let's switch it real quick.
Well, let me
go ahead.
Switch it. Can I talk about Brunson real quick?
Okay, go ahead.
Because, there's this trope, I guess, going around. He's a foul merchant. And
he is.
Okay, fine and dandy.
But it's not a bad thing.
It's not a bad thing, because my thing, I look at Brunson, right? In a sport that's dominated by obviously big men, he is the most average looking cat on that court. He's not big. Doesn't look like he runs particularly fast. It seems like he's a guy that we be playing pickup with who somehow made it to the NBA and is dominating.
Right.
So to me, I feel like a man his size, he's got to take advantage. He's got to do the little things, because he can't match up physically with some of these players. Like, he's not going to out-jump somebody. He's not going to really outrun a lot of these guys. I feel like his game is, predicated on him being able to, get contact. And, and like I said, I don't like the foul merchant thing. I guess I can see, the more I'm thinking about it, where it would come from. But I don't want that to be the defining characteristic of Jalen Brunson, because I feel the brother's too good.
Well, let me ask you this. Do you rank Jalen top 10 players in the league?
Well, throughout the playoffs, we keep hearing that he's the most clutch player, right?
But would you rank him as from the top 10 players right now, would you rank him top 10 in the league, or just outside?
I mean, it's easy for me to sit here today and say, yeah, I'll put him in the top 10. I think top 20, definitely, without thinking. And then I think I'd have to think about paring it down to a 10.
Let's say we put him in the top 10. 4 of the top 10 players are non-athletic. They don't use their athleticism to overwhelm you. Jokic,
yep,
just to the free throw line. Doncic, Luka,
Yep.
gets to the free throw line. Brunson, we mentioned. You know the other one? They play tonight. SGA. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's a theme there because they understand how to get to the free throw line. To me, the Merchant part is smart because, listen, he's utilizing and playing within the rules of how to pick up fouls. It's different if you are out flailing around a lot of times, but if you're able to get a man on your back and get him to run into you, that ain't your fault. That's just smart basketball. Yeah. SGA understand what they all understand is how to get to their spot. They're not overly athletic. You see that quicker change of direction Jalen Brunson had at the top of the key in the game. It was like a quick change, and he was down the lane. Okay, he's not the fastest.
The one where he dipped the ball down.
Yeah, when he dipped it down.
I love
okay,
that. Yeah.
So when you gotta appreciate that because when you go to the scouting, and there's people in the combines and everybody, well, his measurables don't look good.
And let me interrupt real quick. Am I wrong by saying what I said about the fact that he? Okay, I just want to make sure I'm saying.
But if you you talk to scouts and you talk to people, that's why he fell in the second round. Mm-hmm. Is he a point guard? We know he's a point, but can he guard in space? Is he quick enough? Is he athletic? Blah 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 blah. My question is, can he play? If he can play, I can figure it out.
Yeah.
And that's what you see with Jalen and SGA. And we'll keep it with there because those two are playing. They know how to get to the line. My third year, I was fortunate when I was averaging 25. I would get to the free throw line 8 to 10 times a game. Mm-hmm. I would understand how to get there. Let's say the opposing team had 4 fouls. I knew the next foul was a penalty. So I would initiate the offense, underhook my opponent, run down the lane and pick up a foul. That's just knowing time and score, understanding the situation, and knowing how to pick up fouls. MJ knew how to do it. Kobe knew how to do it.
Steph is really good at low-key hooking people when he goes.
Exactly. So you got to know in certain situations how a guy is guarding you, how to get to the line. And the beauty of it is those guys get their team in the penalty, which is very important. Yeah. Because if I can pick up 2 to 3 quick fouls early in the quarter, now they're going to be 2 other fouls, maybe with 6-7 minutes left in that quarter. Now I'm in the penalty and I'm at the free throw line. So I don't look at it as a bad thing, as the way those two in particular, the way Luka does it is a little bit different.
Okay,
because he's complaining. And I love Luka's game, but he complains and he flails and he does stuff. I don't like that aspect of it. But SGA and Brunson and then Jokic, how they do it, I ain't mad.
And what do you attribute Brunson's success to? Because, like I said, he there's no measurable jumping off the page.
It's deep. It's deep. Go back to, you seen the commercial with him and Rick outside and he's shooting and doing all of that.
His dad was, every time he hit a jumper, it looked like I think he did the drill where he would throw the ball over his head, make him run, get the ball, come back.
Well, see, but Rick wasn't an over athletic point guard.
True.
He was a hard worker who knew how to play.
Smart, yeah.
And it's the reason why he had longevity. So he imparted that wisdom to, guess who?
His son.
So it was all about footwork. It was all about body positioning. It was all about being able to make multiple shots, whether it was mid-range from behind the arc or being able to finish at the rim. This one I knew, and I said this before because I had the opportunity to really cover Jalen, along with Josh Hart, along with Mikal Bridges, their years at Villanova. Jalen is the number 1 point guard coming out of high school. He could have went anywhere he wanted to, right? Mm-hmm. And probably started. He chose to go to Villanova. And why is that important? Is because at the time, Ryan Arcidiacono was the starting point guard at Villanova, a going to be senior. So Jalen, along with his family, chose to take a more difficult path, which is he's not starting right away. But he'll learn how to play the game the right way from an outstanding coach in Jay Wright, but from a veteran, mature point guard who played at New York, actually, Ryan Arcidiacono, at one point. And to me, when I saw that, that's a certain humility you have to say, I need to learn how to play the right way. And I watched him just grow and learn how to play, and it was patient. And boom, next 2 championships and National Player of the Year, still didn't get the love to get drafted, still had to prove himself at Dallas, and boom, look where we're at. Yeah. So when you ask me that question, I go back to that decision to go to Villanova under those circumstances to learn how to play the right way, and it's boded well right now for what he's doing in the league.
It's amazing. It's amazing. And, we had Stephen A. Smith on the Rich Eisen Show 2 days ago. I wanted to ask him this. I didn't get a chance to, so if I could bring it up with you now. The New York City point guard is a thing, right? New York City is known for their point guard play. From Kuzi all the way down to now Brunson.
But he's not from New York.
But he's not from New York. But you tell somebody from New York, I think everybody in New York would say that's ours.
No, but it's not. And again, that was 70s, 80s, 90s, early 2000s for New York. I came out with Kenny Anderson.
Yeah.
Okay? Who was, at that time, to me, Chibs, if there was social media, I believe he would have been in the same realm of a LeBron James. That's how I think the nostalgia around and the aura around Kenny was at the time. By starting as a freshman in high school, by setting these records, by doing things that you didn't really see. But think about, that's a lineage from Mark Jackson to Tiny Archibald to Kenny Smith. You can go down the line.
Ray for Austin.
Red Autry.
God Sham.
But those were older guys. You don't have the same impact as the New York point guards as you used to. Because Steph ain't from there. Steph from Carolina. You know what I mean? Look at the point guards that are playing in the league. Okay? Brunson from Chicago.
Yeah.
So at one point it was great, but the world has evolved so much that that's not still the case as far as dominating the point guard position out of New York, in my opinion.
I feel you. Okay. If I'm from New York, though, I'm claiming Brunson as my own.
But you can't. But he's from Chicago.
But he plays in New York. Look, he's a Knick. So, like I said, I ain't got to fight a dog in this fight. I'm just saying, if I were a Knick fan, that's how I would choose to look at it.
No, man, come on, man. So. Speaking of which, and you touched on SGA, Minnesota, man. When I saw Minnesota play against OKC, it kind of looked like in their face, it was like they knew it was coming, the defense. They didn't know it was coming like that.
Like that.
You know what I mean? And OKC, the beauty about OKC, here's the thing about OKC. If I can guard you right here and you don't have to help and you don't put me in rotation, well, I'm good.
Right.
And they have players that could do that. And that's what I think frustrated Minnesota. Minnesota couldn't really get to the paint, couldn't get that help position to kick out for the open threes. OKC dominated points in the paint. They got out in transition. And it was one of those things where Minnesota was kind of rolling a little bit. And the bodies for OKC, whether it was Dort, whether it was SGA, whether it was, other guards that came, Caruso especially, coming in. That's the difference, man, with this OKC team. Their ability to guard one-on-one is so crucial. It's not like they're a great rebounding team or they dominate you like that, even though you got Hartenstein and inside with the acquisition and Chet Holmgren. But where they get you is they get up into you defensively and they make it tough for you and your main guys to kind of beat you off the dribble, force you to help, and you get those open shots. And they don't turn the ball over either.
It's this SGA thing. And one other thing, we're always in sports, they're always talking so much about relatives and, families. But
Alexander.
No one ever, until Richard Jefferson really start hammering the point during the game that, this is a family affair, with these two, that it just doesn't get touched upon. So that's just one thing I'm glad we're hearing about. But SGA, man, here is the thing for me, and this is personal as a Clippers fan, as you know.
Right.
I'm afraid
What?
That these Thunder will win this championship, and that will make that the worst trade in the history.
But that's revisionist history, though. Because at the time, nobody knew SGA was going to be this.
That's good, yeah.
You had an opportunity to go get a perennial all-star in Paul George, who was considered top 15 player.
Yeah.
You go get him. And if it gives up young talent because of what you've already seen in Paul George, you go get it. Nobody knew
that this
was coming. Nobody knew. But that's a situation, too, that I think he really benefited from. And the reason why I say that is because you're thinking, well, maybe he be SGA and Clippers. We don't know what that dynamic is at the Clippers, if he's still there. But what we do know is SGA was able to mature as a player in OKC with the ball in his hands all the time, learning the hard lessons, the defeats, the disappointments, but also how to win games, how to lead. Could he have done the same thing the way the makeup of the Clippers are all the time? I don't know.
Yeah.
And so you can't discount that. Though that move worked perfectly for his development and growth. And now we see all of that. I don't know if he gets that, if he's the main cornerstone, if he stays in LA, because it's LA and the roster was totally different. That's just, my opinion.
All right, so I shouldn't feel as bad as I'm feeling.
No, don't.
About this.
Bro,
Okay.
it was a no-brainer. So no, you gotta go get him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You gotta go get him. You just have to at the time. Paul George is available. Come on, man. And that's not a slight at the young SGA. It's just that's that guy over there in the Eastern that took LeBron and Cleveland to Game 7 and could do it. Could do a little bit of everything. Plus, he's from here. Palmdale.
Yeah, it definitely made all the sense in the world when it happened. I know I was excited. But now, like I said, every time I watch this cat play,
I know.
It just, you sit there and you just go, wow.
How many times you see trades like that, though? I mean, that happened where it seemed like at the time it was a no-brainer because of the exchange in between. And then things play. But it's not an exact science. It's like the draft. It's not, I don't care what you do. It's not an exact science on what you think this move is going to be 5 years from now. Right now, on paper,
it was the right thing.
It's the right thing. But now we look at it, and everybody's like, the dumbest trade the Clippers. Come on. At the time, you don't look at it like that.
And speaking of trades, now you had the trade that brought Randle and DiVincenzo to Minnesota, sent Cat to New York. What are your thoughts on that now, looking back? Because it seemed like that trade worked for both teams.
Both teams. And that's one of those situations where there's a win-win. It didn't look like it at first. It kind of looked like it tilted towards New York because the Randle thing, trying to figure it out how it was going to work, didn't seem right. But it took time. It took time for Ant to figure out how to work with Randle and Randle, what space he needed and how to work with Gobert. I think Randle and Gobert work better together. And Randle is a beast, bro. I mean, I think he's comfortable in his space right now, and he's playing like that. You saw the first half he had, despite the loss. And I think for New York, you needed to have a spacer on the court with Brunson. You needed to have a big that can pick and pop, okay?
That wasn't Julius' game.
That wasn't Julius' game. That wasn't Hartenstein's game. I love Hartenstein. I think you could have found a way to keep him as his backup. I mean, that would have been great, but they didn't want to pay him.
Yeah.
But you needed a cat in order for this offense for New York to be really activated, for Jalen to have that, optionality off of the pick and roll. So to me, this was one of those trades where it made sense for both because of how they played, how they want to play. And now we may have a crash course if things change where those two could potentially be in the finals. You talking about the storylines from that?
It's already writes themselves.
Come on, bro.
What I mean, writes itself.
Man.
Let's talk about Ant-Man. What's he got to do in Game 2 to turn this whole thing around?
The funny thing is Ant said it, he got to make more plays. When Ant was activated, what was that game against Denver? 7? The last game?
Okay.
where he didn't shoot it well, but he was this. He had the 12 assists.
Yeah.
That might have been game 5 or 6, whatever it was. But that's where because remember, he complained about being double teamed and complained about he can't get his space and complained. So that limits you on what you can do. It makes it easy for the defense to take you out of it. To me, Ant, the scoring's going to be the scoring. He didn't score in the fourth quarter. We get it. He had 18 points. But the great players figure out ways to make the defense pay for always having all the eyes on me. And when Ant is doing this early, and again, being aggressive to me is not just being aggressive shooting. Okay, I'm going to attack off the dribble. You come now, I'm making a play. If I see the double team coming, I'm getting off the ball early, put you in rotation, and now it's up to my teammates to make a play or make a shot. So that's my thing with Ant. That's the adjustment.
And that was game 5 when he had
that was game 5. So limit his turnovers because Ant can be loose with the ball.
Yeah, true that.
Because that game 5, he had like 7 or 8 turnovers, right?
He had 4 in
yesterday.
He had 7 in that game.
See?
And he had 4
so he can be he can't be. Now, sometimes turnovers happen. I get it. Don't get me wrong. His decision making on where it needs to go, how it needs to go, and when it needs to go is going to be very important against this OKC team. That double team come, attack it, get off of it. Let it come back to you. Now you can go one-on-one and attack the defense. But if you're trying to face that thing head up while they're set, it's going to be hard to get to your gaps because they're at boxes and they're at elbows. They will force the ball out. But if you get it, give it up, get it back on the second side, now attack, now you got a better opportunity to get it. Also, get stops and get out in transition. OKC wants to run a little bit. They want to run.
Yeah, true.
So guess what? Best way you run on a running team, but you got to get stops. So to me, that's the formula for Ant.
Do you think they got a chance to win this series?
Oh, yeah, no doubt. I think they do. Now, how Conley plays, DiVincenzo plays, Naz Reeves plays, I think that's going to be very important.
I think they'll all play better in game 2. I mean, they have to.
Well, you don't have to. But, you know what I'm saying?
In order for them to win.
They had the others, because, listen, in championship, in where we're at right now, Eastern Western Conference Finals, your stars going to be your stars. But like we saw with the Indiana game, guess who stepped up? It was Nesmith. Okay. That Casey Wallace stepped up with OKC. Your stars are going to get the headlines, but when you win big, you can always go back and chart the lesser-known player or your role players who really had impacts on the game or on the entire series to that championship, ultimately that championship team.
Okay. So let me ask you this time next week. Okay. We got game 5.
Time next week, I'm going to be in DR. Go.
Dominicano.
Yeah.
Dominican Jimmy.
Yeah.
Next Wednesday is the Western Conference Finals. They'll be in game 5. Thursday, Eastern Conference.
Thursday, East. Okay.
Where do you think, just look into that crystal ball, give me a prediction. What do you think we're looking at when both of these series?
Okay, so Wednesday is Western, right?
Yeah.
So today is game 2.
Today's game 2.
I say Minnesota win. Well, I mean, OKC could be up 2-0 going back to Minnesota, bro.
Yeah.
I think OKC wins this game.
Go up 2-0.
Go up 2-0.
Okay.
Minnesota. I think we could see 3-1 Western Conference.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
I would love it to be 2-2. I think this OKC team is different, bro.
They're deep, and as we talked about,
I think that could be 3-1. I think the Indiana series, so that'd be game.
So I'm sorry.
Next Thursday would be game what?
It would be game 5.
3-2 Indiana.
Yeah, Wednesday's game is game 5. I'm sorry. So
it'd be game 5.
It will be game 5. I'm
2-2.
sorry. Yeah, 2-2. So you're picking the T-Wolves to...
No. I'm talking about Indiana.
Oh, okay.
And New York. You said, wait, let's go back.
Wednesday
is game 5.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's game 5.
Mm-hmm.
So
you think...
2-2. So it'll be... I think
in the West, I'm sorry, in the West.
3-1.
So 3-1.
OKC. I think OKC handles their business at home. Minnesota, They split in Minnesota 3-1.
3-1, okay.
Going back to OKC.
So Thursday will be game 5 of the Eastern.
2-2.
2-2.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that series, New York can get one in Indiana.
I think you're right.
New York can get one in Indiana.
This is so exciting because, as you know, we were talking about this on the Rich Eisen Show. We've been hearing that youth is served, right? That's a saying that goes around. And it looks like we finally have reached a point where now youth will be served because there's no star. I mean, there's guys who are stars, but we're talking about worldwide stars that people in other countries would know. There's no
youth more so towards OKC.
Well, I'm just saying youth in general in terms of when this new champion is crowned. I believe the 7th new champion in a row. You're either going to have an SGA, you're going to have an Ant, you're going to have a Brunson, you're going to have a Halliburton, you're going to have some of these young bucks who are now. We've been hearing about the youth getting served, and now it's truly going to be. True. This youth movement is really happening right now, and I think it's like this is the new guard, the old guard, the Steph, the LeBron, the KD,
Tyrese, all of those.
Their time, obviously the time in front is far shorter than the time behind. This is the new era, and these are the new stars, and one of these guys is going to grab this mantle of, superstar, and I think that's what's kind of exciting because we don't really know who's going to win this championship. We don't know which player is going to step up and say, I'm him. And I think that's the beauty of this right now with these 4 teams is I don't know what's going to happen, but as a basketball fan, taking my individual fandom away, I'm excited, man. I feel like the game is going to be in good hands with some of these players. And, this whole debate about who's the new face of the league, it could very well come from one of these 4 teams, a player who steps up. And a lot of that face of the league and everything is time. Think about the parity you talked about. We haven't seen this kind of parity NBA since the 70s. Yeah. When you have multiple teams win championships. And that's something that the NBA was striving for. The NFL has had it. Yeah. Parity-wise. It's extremely difficult to do what Kansas City has been doing, had done before by winning back-to-back. And this is how hard it was to try to win 3 in a row. I mean, it's just football is a different animal. Tough. And NBA, the way I think the salary cap structure and the CBA and the second apron is built now, it's going to be extremely difficult to want to pay 2 max players, super max players. You have to figure out how to thin out that, build your roster differently, and you're going to have more parity across the board. If you look at the teams, the way they're being built and constructed right now, you can't really say that any of these 4 teams, maybe outside of OKC, are going to be dominant for the next 5 years because OKC is going to have to make some decisions on what they do with their roster because they can't pay everybody. But what they all those draft picks to replenish.
What they've been able to do, that's what I was going to say. They're different. A Casey Wallace could easily step in, not easy, but if a Lou Dort moves on, okay, because they developed him and they got draft picks to go get somebody else young. So they sit in a unique position, unlike a lot of other teams because of their draft assets, and they have replaceable parts if someone would leave. Now, SGA, that's a whole different story. Yeah. Holmgren is a little different story. But the other parts you could replace and still be competitive.
What about Jalen Williams? He doesn't seem like a replaceable.
Yeah, you can replace him. Okay. He doesn't seem like it, but Jalen, depending on salary structure come down the line, everybody's not going to be paid. I know Lou Dort is paid already. SGA is paid. They got to pay Chet. Okay. Hartenstein's contract at $50 million, I think it is pretty reasonable in today's world. But those younger guys, you have to figure it out. They don't want to go into Sam Presti to the second apron. They don't want to do that. They got assets. So parity is great for the league. I think one of the challenges is you need a bad guy. You need a team you got to root against. Yeah. That's the way the NBA has been. Yeah. Whether it's been the Celtics, whether it's been the Lakers, whether it's been the Heat, whether it's been Golden State, whether, those times, I can't say Philly has been a hated team, but they kind of been in that situation in the late 70s, 80s, because of Dr. J and even George McGinnis before that.
Well, the Pistons.
And the Pistons, obviously.
We all rallied to hate them.
Yep. And it was a team like San Antonio you didn't really hate, but nobody really galvanized to, but you knew exactly how dominant they were. I don't know the way the NBA is being built out now. Is that a good or bad thing that we don't have? Because Golden State, I think, will they still be competitive? Can they do some stuff? Yeah. But it's not going to be the same dominance that we saw in the past. So do we before we get off this show, do we need that team that we love to hate?
Well, I mean, look.
And could the Knicks be that team?
It could be. But look, in order to have a hero, right, you need a foil.
Right.
So you have to have someone to oppose the hero to make you like him even more. So, yeah, I think a bad guy, quote unquote, is kind of necessary just for sports storyline purposes. But I don't see him within these four teams yet.
Not yet. I think New York may be the closest to that in these. New York or Ant.
But see, Ant's so likable to me.
That's the problem. I think his personality is so good. Yeah. But he speaks his mind, right? Mm-hmm. Like Charles Barkley. Just speaks your mind. You ask me, I'm gonna tell you.
I mean, the man went up to President Obama and was like, I'm him.
I'm him. I'm him. So, but then some people that brashness
turns them off. Well, you know how that goes.
But that's what I was saying as far as,
when people are confident in themselves, it makes other people uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm. But that's why I say I think Ant could be the guy that kind of is really right there, because either you like him or you don't. I don't see how you don't. I love Ant.
Yeah, I just don't think people see him as the villain. I think, he's got the commercials going on now, and I think the kids dig him. I
don't think in him is like the villain part.
Right, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like some people embody the villain.
Like Draymond.
His personality and the way he is, he's too likable to be a villain. You know what I mean?
And you mean Ant, not Draymond.
I'm talking about Ant. Ant is too likable as a person. You know, because he's so brash, he's so honest, he's so authentic. He wants really the involvement of his teammates, even though he understands he's the best. So it's hard not to like that dude, man.
And SGA, he's Canadian, and they're all super nice, so it's hard to dislike him too. So I just don't know if we're going to get that villain unless it's Tyrese Halliburton, who's a huge fan of pro wrestling, but he taps into that heel persona, which if he wants to kind of use that wrestling thing that he loves so much,
so he can be Reggie 2.0.
I think the choke sign made him, like, again, public enemy number one in New York. I wouldn't go walking around Dolo for the next. You know what I'm saying? I'd probably chill in the hotel or have James Johnson with me anytime I left. You don't walk them New York streets, kid, by yourself.
Okay, I'm gonna put you on the spot before we get out of here. Who wins tonight?
Tonight.
Why did you repeat what I just said?
That's classic. It's buying you time. It's buying you time tonight.
We've been talking about all this stuff, and then
now you gotta think.
Tonight. I mean, not the other night.
Let me think here.
Not 2 nights from now.
Tonight. I'm going with
What are you doing, man?
There's a man named Doug West who was an Altoona legend, who went to Villanova played for the T-Wolves. I'm rocking with Doug West. I'm ready.
You going T-Wolves?
So I'm going with the T-Wolves tonight.
Okay. All right. So we'll circle back around. I know you'll be texting me later, and I'll text you later on it, and we'll see. But I appreciate you stopping in, bro. Are
you kidding me? I've been wanting to do this for a minute.
No, man. We may have to do this once a month where we talk about a little bit of everything, because we got some other stuff. We got to talk about the wrestling and some other.
Real quick before we go, you talked about the salary cap thing, just really quick. The Celtics, right? They're in a bit of a conundrum with Tatum. He's going to be missing probably all season.
Yeah,
they got Brown. That's $600 million in contracts. What do you think happens there? Because obviously, that's a lot of money.
Well, those two, unless you can get value, Tatum is not going anywhere. I don't know why you would get rid of Brown. I think the outliers are Porzingis because of his. Unfortunate because he's just health, man. When he's healthy, it's a different thing. Yeah. Al Horford is not making a lot of money like that. His money may come off the board this year because. Well,
Al Horford's been making money since 1965.
65. But Drew Holiday's name has come up because the thing is, you got to look at it too. Is like Bill Belichick said, you got to know when to get off a player before they get too old. Okay, and still have value to get something back, because you see where Derek White has assumed that point guard position and kind of can guard. So if you don't have Drew, you feel comfortable with Derek being there. So can you get younger or some pieces for Drew Holiday? That makes sense. And I'm not saying that that's what you do. And again, you don't want to overreact because of what happened and thinking that it's all over. But when you do have an older player like a Al Horford and like a Drew Holiday, you got to start to look at what that roster looks like for next year and what these parts are. Cleveland has to answer the same thing. Not that they're older, but does the combination of Garland, Mitchell, small backcourt, ancillary pieces, do we need to get bigger, better on the wing? Okay? And I know that's why they got Hunter, but you saw in the playoffs with Ty Jerome, he's a free agent, may get a better offer. With Matt Strus, they got it kind of exposed in the playoffs. Okay? So Cleveland has some questions despite having 60-plus wins. What they want to, I'm not saying blow it up.
But they got some holes.
But they got some holes they got to fill. And that's only one team wins it. Everybody else is scrambling, trying to figure out what they need to do to get better for next year. So I appreciate you, brother.
Thank you so much for having me.
You already said it. It took you 5 hours to figure it out that Minnesota was going to win it. So stay tuned. Have a great weekend, everybody. Be some great games. Tonight, it's OKC, Minnesota. Tomorrow, the thriller. The second game, MSG, Indiana at New York. Love it, love it, love it. We'll get with you next week. Thanks again. Have a good one.